What up, random rockers and Schmoedown fans? Apparently take you. It's time to talk about the movie trivia Schmoedown. Hold on a second. Had a weird notification thing. All right. And yeah. I'm a little underwhelmed given, we had one hell of a Schmoedown Throwdown debut. Or at least for a main event. And that main event being probably one of the best title matches out there. That a lot of other title matches, at least later in the year, are going to have a really hard time following up. A note, we already started with a live event of a singles title match between Dan Murrell and Ethan Irwin, with Dan Murrell coming out on top, back in his A game, and being a three-time champ. At some point, Ghai's going to be humbled, I think. When that Houston live match happens. The stakes, however, being, as of the way this thing ended, and it was built up through what happened, the promo they did prior to the Intergeekdom title match, which they rehashed again, and it turns out, of course, as most people were probably predicting, myself included, that it wasn't Burnett that was going to be in there. It was mostly just, he did Burnett to kind of wheel him in, to lure in Dagnino. And then just try to use it as a means to embarrass, means to embarrass the boss Bateman. Excuse me. And, yeah. Damn it, I hate when I do that. I am so sorry. And then, of course, he comes out and pretty well says Burnett is more the manager and his real partner, of course, as we had figured from the way they've been building up the apparent now titled faction of new heel faction that is the family. I mean, I get it with the fact that with the reveal of Drew McWeeny involved and, him being known as the Godfather, okay. But, lame. I'm sorry. I love you, guy, but that's fucking lame. I just hope your team name between you and Drew, when you finally come up with one, isn't. That'll make up for it big time. I'll even be acceptive of Drew squared. I will accept Drew squared. Or it takes Drew or the MacGyver. Or some weird crap like that. Who knows? Hell, MacGyver would have sounded like a better faction, but whatever. That's just me. Anyway, it was a fine time. I mean, it was a fine team matchup, and it was basically to see who would come. And it was expected that once McWeeny came out, it was expected that with Dagnino, I mean, Ben carried that whole thing for sure. He had to bring it for the most part, and it to the point where it really legitimately came down to the last question. It's unfortunate that the last question on Dagnino and Drew's side Dagnino and Ben's side was unfortunate that it just. And to even hear that if it was really that McWeeny and Ghai versus who's the boss, and which is Ben and Riley. Ben and Riley, not to be confused with Ben O'Reilly, the aka Scarlet Spider from for you fellow comic book nerds out there. No, not to get that confused. Kind of funny if you think about it. Stupid notifications. Anyway. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. It was a better match than what we thought it would have wound up being once the reveal came to be. But and the fact that with Dagnino he took McWeenie and Ghai to the last question, yeah, that's not really saying much for a debut for that team. We don't know what the name is, but that was the whole point of that match was really just to show off if Ghai and McWeenie as a team and how they would work efficiently. And for the most part, they seem to have done fairly well, or at least McWeenie did for the most part. And seriously, Ghai, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd have issues with the lights, but I know you are far more well seasoned and far more well seasoned in that regard. And for a Lion Queen question, come on, man. Come on. Come on. Like, after that, I'm like, yeah, Ben kicks your ass. I'm not going to be surprised. I'll be more surprised when you do. Probably as much as when you beat Dan. To the point where you beating Riley because of the circumstances of rain rust. Which I know you've, by breaking kayfabe, you've actually admitted to. So, that's fine. At least with Riley, or at least more so with Dan than Riley. And Dan proved, and then Roka proved it. He wasn't wrong with that. And yeah, between that and the interview with the pit boss on the Inside Schmoedown, yeah, I don't think that. I have a feeling Riley may no longer be a horseman, depending on how things go. Especially if things with involving the horsemen happen the way they do in the number one contendership. Even if, which they need to at least win, if they for some reason Riley gets kicked out for some reason and then they wind up with the belts beating the Shire Wolves, they're gonna fucking kick themselves in the ass. Roka's gonna kick himself in the ass, or maybe he will accept Ben as part of the horsemen once they have the belts, so they can have the belts with them, which is just gonna make Roka look like a douche. That's in all honesty. See, especially when you're having him as a face, but I mean, it's not like it's understandable with him not wanting to have any association. Same with Ben on Ben's end of things, but given that history, and we all know it's inevitably going to have to happen. And if it don't, then and it winds up being odd couple for some reason, which would be even weirder given Roxy's involvement. But that just would kind of screw her over on the manager of the year thing. But who knows at this point? Though that would just only make the Horsemen going up against possibly corruption even more interesting. And it just makes the who's the boss situation being more focused on them and the family. Even though I don't know if who's the boss is going to just be its own thing and not a faction sort of thing. But anyways, I enjoyed that. I really did enjoy that. As far as the singles match for the number one contenders for the spot to be in the number one contender for the number one contendership triple threat match was Bibbs, which along with Ethan Irwin, who's already automatically in that spot. This first match, which would be between Lon Harris, which was kind of built up from the team match of Critically Acclaimed versus Harris Brothers, and Critical Acclaim winning and, getting their number one contendership to pretty well go for the title against Shire Wolves. We do not know who's going to wind up winning that one. Though I'll kind of bank on Shire Wolves, but I'm not going to count Critically Acclaimed out. I'll tell you that much. Though if something happens and they lose, I don't know if Critical Acclaim will continue as a team or if somehow Whitney is going to pull something out and he's going to bring back the Self-Righteous Brothers. Which would be interesting because I think I kind of like, for what little we got out of that was an interesting team. And they, despite their loss, it wasn't a terrible loss given they fought up against Tate Cannoli and Drew still had some oomph to him, at least in the teams. But also the thing with McWeenie that is the reason why I had to do this a second take, by the way, because I literally forgot to talk about the one important thing, which is why I'm using it as a thumbnail. The whole confrontation we've been waiting for forever, and it's kind of intense for what it is, and you kind of understand, and you get a better understanding of where McWeenie's coming from. And in a way that, to some extent, you can tell he's heel, but he's not really quite heel. He has a more tweener vibe about him. That's maybe turned a little more heel, but he's still in that pocket. It's not like in some of the promos that he had when he was dealing with Thad when he was commissioner or whatever. That he didn't show that kind of dark side. So, and between that and his intensity when he won his matches because he was hungry for that kind of stuff. And same intensity was shown between him and Ghai, and it just worked. He just won. It's a similar situation as to for what Riley had to do in teaming with the boss and having Dagnino as a manager while they were technically still heels at the time. Yeah, he just wanted to win, and through that and his loss to Ghai lit a fire under his ass, and that fire actually did lead to McWeenie losing, and that led to him going to Ghai and Ghai lighting a fire under his ass. And we see that, and so far in terms of teams, for the most part, the only losses he's had to suffer in teams was by the hands of the Patriots and by the Harris brothers, and that's it. The Harris brothers being kind of the lesser of the two, to be honest. So, because the second one he actually lost to some undefeated champs who've remained undefeated for a while up until they finally beat them themselves, which was awesome because Above the Line was the one team that actually seemed to have come out. And I almost thought Who's the Boss could break the streak of team that's happened the past couple of times where the teams themselves going into the spectacular would win. Would more likely wind up not winning as opposed to those that did. But we've had singles matchups that have, but not teams, and which sucks to some extent. But overall, I enjoyed this. I really did enjoy this. I enjoyed that. I'm glad to see Bibbs and Bibbs winning was not a surprise to me. I wasn't expecting Lon Harris to win. I wouldn't have minded an upset, but Corinna. It's like, Corinna. Corinna. I could just hear him say that the whole time. And he's just too far involved and focused on his character and I wish he'd learned to do what Bibbs had done, and that's separate his character from his actual self when he's playing. Like, just focus on being himself when he's playing in the match and not as the character. And maybe he'd actually have gotten somewhere. But it's clear also that he needs to actually study up on more stuff too, and not just stuff he likes. So, and maybe Bibbs might be right. Maybe next year is the year for the year of the professor. Or at least the comeback of the professor makes his comeback, but or maybe this matchup eventually leads to him doing so. Of course, Harris Brothers are still going to continue, even though there was a hint that that Evil Geniuses might have come back. That, or he's thinking of bringing in his one girl, and they're going to be a team now. Don't know how that's going to go over, to be honest, but unless he's got another partner in mind. I'd love to see what that is, JTE. Which was nice to see you back with the Patriots for a while and not come back, and I think that was also a good roll into the new year for Jeff Snyder, and coming off of that momentum of that match going into his match with Drake, his match with the Odd Couple versus Scream Queens match played a part a little bit too, and him kind of getting into that character of the more odd part of the Odd Couple in comparison to, well, the more level-headed one is Draco, so it makes sense that they did that. But yeah, I love the fact that Sam Levine and McWeeny got to finally hash it out, and McWeeny that was like the highlight of this week for me. Since, the matchups themselves didn't so much. I mean, yeah, the reveal of the Houston thing, which would have been more revealing more interesting of a reveal, had I actually got to see the on Monday, if I didn't have my Patreon issue, and then, seeing it on Thursday and not getting spoiled the whole McWeeny Ghai McWeeny reveal. It's like, well, you kind of spoiled that part. I already know it's coming, and it did come, and it's not like I didn't expect it. It just kind of ruined a surprise that would have been more effective had I actually seen it the way I was supposed to see it, which actually would have been much better if they actually if they didn't have an editing issue or whatever it was, which, I mean, I'm glad you explained it at the end, but I would have liked the explanation ahead of time, like when it was cut, like right in the middle of round one. But whatever, guys. Also, Corruption versus World Finest coming up. The second and final match leading into the number one contender before the triple threat itself finally happens. We're going to be getting... We already now know Bibbs and Irwin are confirmed, and now it's a matter of the more interesting match of who's going to be involved in the rematch of rematches through the triple threat style number one contendership title for the number one contendership to go up against Raw. And whether or not most people will probably say Roca. I mean, I understand, but given he's former champion, it's going to be even more interesting because you got 3 former champs all gunning to get that belt back. But I'm not going to count on Draco. And Draco's already on a path to getting the team titles, possibly. So he's hungrier than anything. So he's going to want at least get that singles belt. If he doesn't wind up getting a chance to get that team belt. And it's... and plus, we've had moments where Roca's choked. So, if that Roca shows up, Draco has a chance. If not, and he's on fire, and then Draco's probably screwed. But yeah, that last question for that Omega 13 thing, that Galaxy Quest, yeah. That did kind of hurt, but I'm willing to bet that if Riley was involved again, if he's the boss, of course they get their asses handed to him, and that's what would have happened. So, but overall, I enjoyed the matchups. What did you guys think about it? What you think of my thoughts on it? Leave a comment below. Let me know. Rock that like button on this video with thrust if you must. Please punch that subscribe button, and as well as hitting that bell as well as ringing that bell for notifications, since that's the only way you're going to be able to see my vids, especially and click all if it gives you that option, which I doubt it might. For me, I don't think it does. Just hit this email notification part of it. Hit the checkbox. And while you're at it, link in the description below for the Facebook. And while you're there, like and follow as well. Rock that like button and follow. Follow me there as well. You probably do both once you press the like button, but still, if you have it, Facebook and all that. And overall, it was a fun show. It was a solid week, I guess you could say. Just not just coming off of a high from what we got out of the Schmoedown Throwdown. It's kind of understandable that, even the beginning of the Action Civil War just wasn't going to be enough. especially given the obvious predictability of McWeeney's reveal. And just the whole point of this match was to basically see how Ghai and McWeeny were going to be partnering up. And the fact that, they took these, they went to the last question and they won it, but, it basically took to the last question. So, and them up against Dagnino, which makes it pretty clear that they're leagues behind. They are nowhere near who's the boss. They can't touch who's the boss right now, unless something happened in the Magic, but who's the boss is gone or they can't pull it out of them during a live event. I don't know. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping for that match is good. I would love to see it live though. Between that and the Star Wars match, which come on, please be Whitwer. Please be Whitwer. Come on, just give us the Whitwer match. Don't hold out on us, man. Just give us this Whitwer match. Whitwer Damon match. That's what we've been wanting. And that's what we should be getting. And I don't know who else, unless one of the newer players that's coming out is going to be coming in and facing him. Okay, but it doesn't seem like it'll be earned. And then everyone's just going to tout the guy who beat Damon as more of a paper champion. It was just you got lucky, kid. Damon's coming for it and going to kick your ass, kind of a situation. But if it's Whitwer, it's gonna be that's just more interesting, and that's just we're gonna. Though I know he's gonna be busy, but it's gonna suck even more if he winds up beating Damon and has to vacate it again. Then it would have just been all for nothing. And I understand why they're being a little leery about it. So it's whatever on that. Either way, I hope what we do get is going to be awesome. Because I know a lot of people are going to see him and it's like, what? It's like, it'd be more awesome if Whitwer did show up. It may just make the live event even better for that. Because especially if you're going to make that the main event and we don't even know who the challenger is. And then you find out the challenger isn't Whitwer and it's some new guy and not someone that we've already kind of been established. So we know it can't be Ken, unfortunately, but at least that matchup was more promising and gave us something at the Spectacular in comparison to what we got at that weird open challenge thing at Collider Collision. That was embarrassing in and of itself. I don't expect you to follow up with one hell of an Iron Man match that Knapsack and Whitwer had, but it's a shame because they want to build this up and make it more, but right now all it is a yearly thing and it's just kind of a trophy than an actual belt in comparison to what you get out of the Inner Geekdom. Hell, the Inner Geekdom's probably even better, more worthy of a title in comparison to what we've got in the singles right now. Which is insane in and of itself. And I know, hot take. But anyway, overall, I enjoyed it. And yeah. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. If you smell what the movie trivia Schmoedown is cooking.